In this video, I'm going to introduce the 8 orchestral textures from Frederick McKay's book, Creative Orchestration. In the book, he outlines 8 different distinct ways that you can arrange or organize sounds and instruments in the orchestra for unique textures. So what I'd like to do is explain each texture individually, show an example from the repertoire, and then apply that texture to the theme from Breath of the Wild so we can see how to really use it in an actual context. To keep this video from getting really crazy long, because there are 8 of them, I'm going to put each texture in a separate video, so make sure you subscribe so you can catch each one. So the 8 different textures are monophonic, chordal, polyphonic, homophonic, heterophonic, polythematic, polyrhythmic, and onomatopoeic. And I think the 8 textures can actually be grouped into 3 distinct groups. So the linear group would be monophonic, chordal, onomatopoeic, and heterophonic. The textures that are more almost like orchestral fabric are the polyrhythmic and the polyphonic. And then the ones we're a little more used to with melody and accompaniment would be the homophonic and the polythematic. So monophonic means one sound, it's one line. That could be just a single solo line, or it could mean doubling in unison or doubling in octaves. It sounds a little overly simple and like, yeah, okay, when am I going to use this? But you can actually get a lot of power by just intensely focused octaves. We'll see that in the monophonic video, that you can get kind of your biggest orchestral sound when everybody is really intense on just one pitch. The chordal texture is when you take the monophonic line and stretch it out into 3D or Technicolor, taking that single line and adding harmonies to it. But the idea is not that it's a melody with chords, because you're still hearing it as a distinct sound. So think of it more as like a sax section moving together in tight-knit close harmony, rather than a melody with chords underneath it. It's supposed to be perceived as a single sound. Polyphonic is what we think of as kind of traditional contrapuntal. So if you think back to old fugues, that idea where all of the independent voices are working together to create one cohesive sound. And in a way, the separation and independence of all the different lines actually takes away from their independence, because you're getting an overall texture that doesn't feature one voice over another one. The polyrhythmic texture is something that you can find a lot of examples of from Stravinsky, where he's using all sorts of little licks and rhythms and hits and phrases across the orchestra to create just this massive chaotic sound that is so much more felt more than any individual point is heard. The homophonic is the one that we're most used to, which is a melody and chords underneath it, usually in some sort of rhythmic pattern. So coming from a kind of jazz rock background, I think myself and a lot of people default to the homophonic texture, but it's important to notice that McKay distinctly puts this as 1/8 of the available options. Polythematic is another interesting one. It's similar to the homophonic, but there's a lot more stress on the individuality of each line and how each line really functions on its own. In the homophonic, the accompaniment part can be very secondary and very simple. In the polythematic, those other lines really have something of their own to say as well. And the onomatopoeic texture is when you use the orchestra and music to kind of copy sounds that you'd find in real life. So in the same way that we might have a word like splash, you'd use the orchestra to kind of create a splash effect. So that's my quick overview of what's to come. Like I said, I'm going to do a separate video for each of these textures where I'll explain it in a bit more detail, we'll listen to a real example, and then I'll take that Breath of the Wild theme, apply this texture to it so you can see how this can really be used in real life. So again, to make sure you don't miss out on those, please hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time.